The town of Sundrift was a dusty mirage on the edge of nowhere, surrounded by an ocean of shifting sand. No roads led to it, no maps marked its existence. For those who stumbled upon it, Sundrift felt like the remnants of a forgotten dream, or perhaps a nightmare. The townsfolk lived simple lives, yet every resident carried an unshakable unease. Sundrift wasn't like other places. It perched on the border of a realm they only dared call the in-between. Some claimed it was where all lost things ended up. Forgotten toys, vanished keys, missing socks, and sometimes people. It started with whispers in the wind, strange otherworldly sounds that echoed through the night. Then came the shadows, darker than the starless desert sky, slipping into homes and leaving nothing but fear behind. By morning, belongings would vanish. Over time, people began disappearing too, leaving no trace they'd ever existed. Sundrift had a sheriff, but no one would call him a hero. Sheriff Eli Mercer had once been a lawman in a bustling city, but a mistake too big to forgive had driven him into exile. He arrived in Sundrift looking for anonymity, but even here the weight of his past followed him. Eli was a man of quiet strength, his steel-grey eyes reflecting the burden of countless failures. The townsfolk respected him but kept their distance, sensing the sorrow he carried. Among Sundrift's newer residents was Lena, a fiery young woman with dark, tangled hair and eyes that never stopped searching. She and her younger brother Sam had arrived a year ago. They had no memory of where they came from, only that Sundrift felt like a place they couldn't leave. Lena worked odd jobs around town, while fiercely protecting Sam, a boy of 12 who was quiet but imaginative, always sketching strange landscapes and creatures in his worn notebook. The unease in Sundrift deepened when Sam disappeared one moonless night. His absence was felt like a wound, raw and gaping. Lena's cries for help echoed through the empty streets, but no one dared to step outside after dark. The whispers had been louder that night, and the shadows more restless. Sheriff Eli found Lena the next morning, sitting on the steps of the general store, her hands trembling around a lantern that had long since burned out. "He's gone. The shadows took him." "You're sure?" "I heard him calling for me from the edge of town. I couldn't see him, but I know it was Sam." Eli's jaw tightened. He'd heard similar stories before, always ending the same, with someone lost forever to the in-between. Still, he couldn't ignore the determination blazing in Lena's eyes. "If you're going after him, you won't go alone." That evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Lena and Eli prepared to venture to the border of Sundrift. Eli carried a rifle and a satchel of supplies, while Lena gripped Sam's notebook and a lantern filled with fresh oil. The townsfolk watched from behind their curtains, whispering prayers for the two who dared to challenge the unknown. "What do you know about the in-between?" "Only what I've heard. It's not just a place, it's alive. It feeds on what's lost. If you're not careful, it'll pull you in too." As they crossed the threshold, the air grew colder, heavier. The world seemed to warp around them, the sands fading into an endless expanse of shadows and half-formed shapes. Lena gasped as she saw fragments of objects floating by: a child's doll missing an arm, a broken clock frozen at midnight, a torn scarf fluttering as if caught in a phantom breeze. "Lena, it's everything that's been forgotten. Eli, and everyone." They moved cautiously, the light from Lena's lantern carving a fragile bubble of safety. The shadows whispered, their voices like dry leaves rustling. Occasionally Lena thought she heard Sam's voice among them, calling her name, each time she started forward, only for Eli to grab her arm and pull her back. "Eli, that's not him. The in-between knows what you want to hear." But as they pressed on, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Shapes began to form within the shadows, figures that were almost human. Some resembled townsfolk who had disappeared over the years, their faces pale and hollow-eyed. One reached out to Lena, its hand dissolving into mist just before touching her. "Figure, Lena, don't stop, keep moving." After what felt like hours, they reached a place where the shadows thinned, revealing a vast, desolate landscape. In the distance stood a towering structure, a spire made of countless objects fused together, broken furniture, shattered glass, crumpled photographs. It pulsed with a sickly light, and Lena felt a chill crawl down her spine. "He's there, I know he is." As they approached the spire, the shadows grew more aggressive, swirling around them like a living storm. Eli fired his rifle, the crack of the shots momentarily scattering the darkness, but it was a losing battle. The shadows were endless. "Go! Find your brother!" Lena hesitated, fear gripping her, but Eli's determination gave her strength. She sprinted toward the spire, clutching the lantern like a lifeline. The entrance loomed before her, a jagged archway that seemed to hum with energy. Inside, the air was thick and suffocating. The walls writhed with shadows, and the whispers were deafening. At the center of the spire, Lena saw Sam, his small figure trapped within a cocoon of darkness. His eyes were closed, his face pale. "Lena! Sam!" As she reached out, the shadows surged, forming a monstrous shape that loomed over her. It had no face, only a gaping void where its features should have been. The entity's voice was a chorus of every whisper she'd ever heard. "You cannot take what is ours. He is lost. He's not yours. He's my brother, and I'm taking him back." The entity recoiled as she held up the lantern, its light flaring brighter than ever. With a scream of defiance, Lena plunged the lantern into the cocoon. The shadows writhed and shrieked, their grip on Sam loosening. He fell into Lena's arms, coughing and disoriented. "Lena, I've got you! We're going home!" Lena and Sam stumbled out of the spire, the shadows retreating in their wake. Eli was waiting for them, his rifle empty but his determination unbroken. Together, the three made their way back through the in-between, the lantern's light their only guide. When they crossed the threshold into Sundrift, the first rays of dawn were breaking over the desert. The shadows dissolved and the whispers fell silent. The townsfolk emerged cautiously, their faces a mix of awe and relief as they saw Lena, Sam and Eli return. "What now? Now we make sure no one else gets taken. Sundrift's got a fight ahead, but we've got each other." For the first time in a long while, hope flickered in the heart of Sundrift. Thank you, and please like and subscribe.